Rambam, Maimonides' teachings in the 14th and last book of Mishnah Torah, Sefer Shoftim, the book of judges, courts, and the like. We now learn the laws, Hilchas Mamrim, the laws of rebellious ones. They include 9 mitzvahs, 3 positive commandments, and 6 negative commandments. First, follow directives given by the Supreme Sanhedrin, the High Court, not to deviate from their words, not to add to the Torah, neither to the mitzvahs or to the written law, nor to their explanation, which was transmitted by the oral tradition, not to distract from the mitzvahs, not to curse one's father or mother, not to strike one's father and mother, to honor one's father and mother, to fear one's father and mother, for a son not to rebel against his father's and mother's instructions. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where's all my kids? All right, these mitzvahs are explained in the coming chapters. The Supreme Sanhedrin in Jerusalem are the essence of the oral law. They are the pillars of instruction for whom statutes and judgments issue forth for the entire people. Concerning them, the Torah promises, you shall do according to the laws which they shall instruct you. This is a positive commandment. Whoever believes in Moshe and his Torah is obligated to make all the religious acts dependent on this court and rely on them, right? So they're the ones who are going to instruct based on, these sages for the entire Jewish people. Which, of course, we don't have that today because the Sanhedrin has, in the 4th century, was dismantled. It lasted even after, right? And so, therefore, today we don't have one source of Jewish law and Jewish observance. Excuse me. But this is the way, we're doing biblical law right now, right? This is biblical law. It will then come down and explain further. Any person who does not carry out the directives transgresses a negative commandment. So there's a positive commandment to follow, right? Their dictate, and also a negative commandment: do not deviate from the statements they relate to you. Not what God says in the Torah, right? It's not for you to decide what the meaning is in the Torah. It's the high court, the Sanhedrin, the sages of Israel, right? Neither right or left. Lashes are not given for the violation of these prohibitions because it also serves as a warning for the transgression punishable by execution by the court. For when a sage rebels against words of the court, he should be executed by strangulation, as the following verse states, a person who will act deliberately. So someone who's knowledgeable and is aware and is acting deliberately, like, the sages said that this is the meaning of, the violation of Shabbos. And you say, well, no, I learn it differently, right? And you're a scholar. Yeah, I'm not talking about someone who's just, and you're doing it deliberately. So that person, right, is in violation as the verse says in Deuteronomy. It doesn't, right? It doesn't give the end of the verse, but I have to look over there. We are obligated to heed the words, whether they learn from the oral tradition, meaning the oral Torah. Oral tradition means that, for example, it says to keep the Sabbath, right? Doesn't, besides fire on Shabbos, Torah doesn't tell us anything about how to observe. Well, the rabbis learn out because the juxtaposition of keeping the Sabbath and the building of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary for God. So we learn out from the juxtaposition, and this is oral Torah, but it's an oral Torah explaining the biblical law. So it's not rabbinic law, it's right. It's biblical law, but it's the oral tradition to understand what's a prohibition. Well, any kind of works for the for the tabernacle, for the Mishkan that was done, and there's 39 categories, are equated to Shabbos, and those are the 39 categories that you are not allowed to transgress, and that becomes biblical law. But it doesn't say about threshing or plowing. Torah doesn't speak about plowing for Shabbos, not at all. It's oral tradition that's explaining the meaning of the verses, and right. Of what the meaning is. Number two is derived from the basis of their own knowledge through the attributes of biblical exegesis, and it has appeared to them that this is a correct interpretation of the matter. Actually, I just give you an exegesis, right? Because they're in the same verse, side by side. Because of side by side, that's one of the ways to understand that there's a correlation between them, Shabbos and the building of the Mishkan, and therefore they learn out from it, right? That was actually that example. Institute of the matter as a safeguard of the Torah that is necessary at specific times. These are decrees, edicts, and customs instituted by the sages. So that's rabbinic law now, because they're putting a fence around the Torah. So, for example, on Shabbos, I could pick up my iPhone on Shabbos. Just can't use it. That would be a biblical. Using it would be a biblical law, but picking it up is a rabbinic law that I'm not allowed to pick it up. Right? I'm not allowed to pick it up. Now, if I need the space over here, so maybe pending, you could move it for the space that you need. But to pick it up, just, what I want to carry it. I just, now I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it would be also rabbinic. Playing with it, right? That might be, is, I think it's biblical. Let's assume it's a biblical for the moment, right? But the rabbinic is, no, you can't. Why? That's offensive law around the law that the rabbis made, and we need to follow. It's a positive commandment to heed the court with regard to each of these three matters. A person transgresses any of these types of directives transgresses a negative commandment. This is derived from the continuation of the above verse in the following manner. According to the laws that they instruct you. This refers to edicts, decrees, and customs that which they instruct people at large to observe to strengthen the faith and perfect the world. Right? In other words, that's rabbinic law, right? To strengthen. Right? That's again the idea of muksav, not handling something that you might come, right? You might come to use it. Using it would be the biblical law, but might come to use it. That's a rabbinic law that the sages put a fence around the Torah. According to the judgment which they relate, this refers to matters as are derived through logical analysis, employing one of the methods of biblical exegesis, like the 13 principles of that we read before the first Kaddish. It's said in the morning service on page 25 in the Siddur, in the blue Siddur. You'll see it. I think it's 20. 25. From all the things that they will tell you, this refers to the tradition that they received one person from another. In other words, they received that this is the way of understanding. It's a oral tradition, right? Okay, I would love to continue. I can't.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bless you all, folks.
Shabbat. Shalom. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.